Stop. Before you scroll. Before you apply to another job you don't care about. Before you waste another decade of your life climbing the wrong ladder. Listen to me. The career you choose in the next few years will imprison you or liberate you for the next 40 to 50 years of your existence. Not 10 years, not 20, 40, 50. And most people choose wrong. They choose comfort. They choose what's easy. They choose what their parents wanted. And then they wake up at 45, exhausted, resentful, and trapped. This audiobook will not let that happen to you. This is the framework for choosing work you will never regret. Pay attention. Your future self is listening. Let me tell you something that nobody told me when I was young. Something that would have changed every decision I made. Something that most people never understand until it is far too late to do anything about it. Whatever career you choose right now, you are going to be stuck with it for the next 40 to 50 years of your life. Let that sink in. 40 to 50 years. Not 5 years, not 10 years, not even 20 years. We are talking about 4 to 5 decades of waking up, going to the same type of work, seeing the same type of people, solving the same type of problems over and over and over again until your body is old and your mind is tired and your best years are behind you. This is not pessimism. This is not me trying to scare you. This is mathematics. This is reality. And the sooner you accept this truth, the better your decisions will become. You see, most people treat career decisions like they are choosing what to eat for dinner. They think casually. They think short term. They ask themselves what sounds interesting right now, what their friends are doing, what their parents want them to do. And then they stumble into a profession without ever realizing that they just signed a contract with life. A contract that will be very, very difficult to break. You are not picking a job. You are picking a life sentence. Read that again. You are not picking a job. You are picking a life sentence. And here is where it gets even more serious. Once you enter an industry, once you build experience in a specific field, once you develop skills in a particular direction, leaving that world becomes exponentially harder with every passing year. Think about it this way. Let us say you decide to get into finance. You study accounting or economics or business. You get your first job at a bank or an insurance company or a financial consulting firm. You spend 5 years learning the systems, understanding the regulations, building relationships in that world. Then 10 years. Then 15 years. During that time, you can absolutely move around within finance. You can go from home loans to life insurance. You can shift from health insurance to corporate taxation. You can move from being a chartered accountant to working in investment banking. You can jump from one financial institution to another. The industry is wide, and there is room to move left and right within it. But here's what you cannot do. You cannot wake up one morning at age 40 and decide to become the master chef of Australia. Can it happen? Technically, yes. Is it likely? Absolutely not. The chances are so small that we might as well call them zero. Because by the time you are 15 or 20 years into a finance career, you have mortgage payments. You have a family depending on you. You have a reputation built entirely in one world. You have skills that only matter in that world. And starting over from zero in a completely different industry is not just difficult, it is terrifying. It is financially devastating. It is socially embarrassing. And most people simply will not do it. So they stay. They stay in careers they hate. They stay in industries that drain them. They stay in jobs that slowly kill their spirit, year after year after year. And every single morning, they wake up with a quiet voice in their head, whispering that they made the wrong choice decades ago. But now, it is too late. Let me tell you something that nobody told me when I was young. Something that would have changed every decision I made. Something that most people never understand until it is far too late to do anything about it. Whatever career you choose right now, you are going to be stuck with it for the next 40 to 50 years of your life. Let that sink in. 40 to 50 years. Not 5 years, not 10 years, not even 20 years. We are talking about 4 to 5 decades of waking up, going to the same type of work, seeing the same type of people, solving the same type of problems, over and over and over again until your body is old and your mind is tired and your best years are behind you. This is not pessimism. This is not me trying to scare you. This is mathematics. This is reality. And the sooner you accept this truth, the better your decisions will become. You see, most people treat career decisions like they are choosing what to eat for dinner. They think casually. They think short term. They ask themselves what sounds interesting right now, what their friends are doing, what their parents want them to do. And then they stumble into a profession without ever realizing that they just signed a contract with life. A contract that will be very, very difficult to break. You are not picking a job, you are picking a life sentence. Read that again. You are not picking a job, you are picking a life sentence. And here is where it gets even more serious. Once you enter an industry, once you build experience in a specific field, once you develop skills in a particular direction, leaving that world becomes exponentially harder with every passing year. Think about it this way. Let us say you decide to get into finance. You study accounting or economics or business. You get your first job at a bank or an insurance company or a financial consulting firm. You spend 5 years learning the systems, understanding the regulations, building relationships in that world. Then 10 years. Then 15 years. During that time, you can absolutely move around within finance. You can go from home loans to life insurance. You can shift from health insurance to corporate taxation. You can move from being a chartered accountant to working in investment banking. You can jump from one financial institution to another. The industry is wide, and there is room to move left and right within it. But here is what you cannot do. You cannot wake up one morning at age 40 and decide to become the master chef of Australia. Can it happen? Technically, yes. Is it likely? Absolutely not. The chances are so small that we might as well call them zero. Because by the time you are 15 or 20 years into your finance career, you have mortgage payments, you have a family depending on you, you have a reputation built entirely in one world, you have skills that only matter in that world. And starting over from zero in a completely different industry is not just difficult, it is terrifying. It is financially devastating. It is socially embarrassing. And most people simply will not do it. So they stay. They stay in careers they hate. They stay in industries that drain them. They stay in jobs that slowly kill their spirit, year after year after year. And every single morning, they wake up with a quiet voice in their head, whispering that they made the wrong choice decades ago. But now it is too late. The 40-year trap does not announce itself. It does not send warning letters. It does not give you a countdown timer. It simply closes around you, slowly, invisible, year by year, until one day you look around and realize you cannot remember the last time you felt truly free. Do not let that be your story. Make your decision with eyes wide open. Understand the weight of what you are choosing. And never, ever forget that the career you pick today will be the career you live with for decades to come. This is the foundation of everything else we will discuss in this audiobook. Before we talk about money, before we talk about competition, before we talk about skill selection, you must internalize this truth completely. You are not picking a job. You are picking a life sentence. Remember that. Carry it with you. Let it guide every decision from this moment forward. Because if you understand the 40-year trap, you will choose differently than everyone around you. You will think longer term. You will be more careful. You will be more strategic. And when you are 50 years old, looking back on a career that fulfilled you instead of drained you, you will be grateful that you heard this warning when you still had time to act on it. The trap is real, but you do not have to fall into it. Choose wisely. The clock is already ticking. Chapter 2. Success demands alignment. I want you to think about every successful person you have ever admired. Every entrepreneur who built an empire. Every artist who changed culture. Every athlete who dominated their sport. Every leader who moved millions of people with their words and their vision. Now I want you to ask yourself one simple question. Did any of them hate what they did? Take your time, think carefully. Scroll through every name in your memory, every biography you have read, every interview you have watched, every documentary that inspired you. The answer is no. It is always no. It has been no for every generation throughout human history, and it will continue to be no for as long as human beings exist. I have never met a single successful person who despised their work. Not one. Not ever. And neither have you. Because such a person does not exist. This is not coincidence. This is not luck. This is not some feel-good motivational nonsense designed to make you chase your dreams blindly. This is cause and effect. This is the fundamental law of extraordinary achievement that nobody can escape. You cannot outperform someone who loves what you merely tolerate. Write that down, tattoo it on your brain. Let it echo in your mind every time you consider settling for a career that does not excite you. You cannot outperform someone who loves what you merely tolerate. Here is why this matters so much. Success in any field requires years of sustained effort, not weeks, not months, years, decades, thousands of hours of practice, learning, failing, adjusting, and pushing forward when everything inside you wants to quit. That level of commitment is simply impossible to maintain if you hate what you are doing. Your willpower will run out. Your motivation will collapse. Your discipline will crack under the weight of endless days spent forcing yourself to do something that feels like punishment. But the person who loves their work? They do not experience it as sacrifice. They do not experience it as grinding. They do not count the hours and pray for the weekend to arrive. For them, the work itself is the reward. The process itself is fulfilling. Monday morning feels the same as Friday afternoon because every day is an opportunity to do something they genuinely care about. How can you possibly compete with that? How can you outwork someone who does not feel like they are working? How can you outlast someone who would do this for free if they had to? You cannot. The math does not work. The psychology does not work. The biology does not work. When you hate your job, stress hormones flood your body every single morning. Your brain associates work with pain, and it will do everything possible to avoid that pain. You will procrastinate. You will cut corners. You will do the minimum required to not get fired. You will watch the clock constantly, waiting for permission to escape. Meanwhile, your competitor who loves their work is in a completely different mental state. Their brain releases dopamine when they engage with their craft. They enter flow states regularly. They lose track of time because they are so absorbed in what they are doing. They study their field on weekends, not because someone told them to, but because they cannot help themselves. They are obsessed in the healthiest possible way. 10 years into both of your careers, who do you think will be more successful? The person who spent a decade running towards something, or the person who spent a decade running away from something? The answer is obvious, and yet millions of people ignore this truth every single day. They take jobs for the paycheck. They choose careers for the prestige. They follow paths that their parents selected for them. And then they wonder why they feel stuck, burnt out, and left behind by peers who seem to achieve effortlessly. Those peers are not achieving effortlessly. They are simply aligned. Their work matches their interests. Their career fits their personality. Their daily tasks energize them instead of depleting them. And that alignment gives them an unfair advantage that no amount of willpower can overcome. You cannot outperform someone who loves what you merely tolerate. I want to be very clear about something. I am not telling you that work will always feel like a vacation. I am not telling you that passion means every single day is filled with joy and excitement. Even people who love their careers have difficult days. They have frustrating clients. They have projects that fail. They have moments when they question everything. The difference is that they push through those moments because the underlying work still matters to them. The foundation is solid. The alignment is real. So when storms come, they weather them. When obstacles appear, they climb over them. When failures happen, they learn and continue. But when you hate your work at a fundamental level, Every small problem becomes a reason to quit. Every setback confirms what you already believed, that this career was a mistake, that you are trapped, that life is unfair. And slowly, that bitterness poisons everything. I have seen it happen hundreds of times. Talented people who chose careers for the wrong reasons. They had the intelligence, they had the work ethic, they had everything required for success except one thing: alignment. And without alignment, all of their other gifts were wasted. They became the person who complains at every office gathering. They became the employee who does just enough to survive. They became the professional who stopped growing years ago because they could not bear to invest more of themselves into something they never wanted in the first place. Meanwhile, their former classmate who chose a less prestigious path but loved every minute of it became wildly successful. Not because they were smarter, not because they worked harder in terms of raw hours, but because their hours were filled with energy, creativity, and genuine enthusiasm that no amount of forcing can replicate. If you hate Mondays, you will never outwork someone who loves them. Your resentment will compound into mediocrity. Their passion will compound into mastery. This is why Chapter 1 matters so much. You are choosing a 40-year path. If you choose a path you hate, you are signing up for 40 years of swimming upstream, 40 years of forcing yourself out of bed, 40 years of watching people who love their work zoom past you while you struggle to keep up. But if you choose a path that aligns with who you actually are, those 40 years become a gift. They become an adventure. They become a continuous journey of growth and achievement and satisfaction that most people never experience. So how do you find alignment? How do you know if a career truly fits you? You pay attention to what energizes you versus what drains you. You notice which tasks make time disappear versus which tasks make every minute feel like an hour. You observe which subjects you research voluntarily versus which subjects you avoid at all costs. The clues are already there. Your entire life has been giving you hints about what you were built to do. The problem is that most people ignore those hints. They suppress their natural interests because someone told them those interests were not practical. They abandon their instincts because the world pressured them towards safer choices. Do not make that mistake. The cost is too high. 40 years of misalignment is not just a career problem. It is a life problem. It affects your health. It affects your relationships. It affects your self-worth. It affects everything. Success demands alignment. There are no exceptions to this rule. Every single person who reached the top of any field did so because some part of them genuinely loved the climb. They were not pretending. They were not faking enthusiasm for a paycheck. They were doing what felt right for them. Find what feels right for you. Take it seriously. Investigate it honestly. And once you discover it, pursue it with everything you have. Because when your work aligns with your nature, success stops being a struggle. It becomes inevitable. You cannot outperform someone who loves what you merely tolerate. So stop tolerating, start loving, or find something else to do. Your 40-year sentence should not be served in a prison. It should be lived in a kingdom that you built with your own hands, doing work that makes you come alive. That is what alignment means. That is what success demands. And that is what you must find before anything else matters. Chapter 3. Find your natural edge. If you do not know what to do with your life, I need you to stop right now. Stop scrolling through job listings. Stop asking your friends what they think you should do. Stop taking personality quizzes on the internet. Stop looking outward for answers that can only be found inward. The answer is already inside you. It has been there your entire life. You have simply been trained to ignore it. Let me ask you something important. What do you do better than other people without even trying? What comes naturally to you that seems to confuse or frustrate everyone around you? What skill do you possess that feels almost effortless to execute, while others struggle for years to develop even basic competence? Think carefully. Do not rush this. Do not dismiss anything as unimportant. Maybe you can explain complicated ideas in simple terms while your colleagues stumble over their words. Maybe you can read people's emotions instantly while others remain completely oblivious. Maybe you can organize chaos into systems while everyone else drowns in disorder. Maybe you can stay calm under pressure while your peers fall apart at the slightest inconvenience. Whatever it is, that is your natural edge. That is your starting point. That is the foundation upon which your entire career should be built. Find what feels easy to you and difficult to others. That is where your fortune hides. I want you to memorize that phrase. Repeat it to yourself until it becomes automatic, because this single concept will save you decades of confusion and misdirection. Most people spend their entire lives trying to become good at things they were never designed to do. They fight against their own nature instead of flowing with it. They see successful people in certain fields and assume they should copy that exact path without ever considering whether they have the natural aptitude for it. This is madness. This is self-sabotage. This is a guaranteed recipe for mediocrity. You were not born as a blank slate. You arrived in this world with certain tendencies, certain inclinations, certain abilities that were baked into your DNA before you took your first breath. Some people are naturally analytical. Some people are naturally creative. Some people are naturally social. Some people are naturally introspective. None of these orientations are better or worse than the others. They are simply different. And the key to career success is finding the path that matches your particular orientation, rather than forcing yourself into a mold that was designed for someone else. But here is the problem. The school system you grew up in spent 12 to 16 years trying to erase your natural edge. Think about how traditional education works. You are graded on every subject equally. If you are brilliant at mathematics but terrible at history, you are punished for your weakness rather than rewarded for your strength. If you can write beautifully but cannot solve equations, you are told to work harder on math instead of doubling down on writing. The entire system is designed to produce well-rounded students who are moderately competent at everything and exceptional at nothing. This makes sense for schools. Schools need standardized ways to measure and sort millions of students. They need simple metrics that apply to everyone. They need conformity because conformity is easy to manage. But life does not work this way. Life does not reward the well-rounded. Life rewards the exceptional. The market does not pay premium prices for people who are average at 10 different things. The market pays premium prices for people who are world-class at one specific thing. The market does not care about your weaknesses as long as your strengths are undeniable. Think about any successful person you admire. Were they well-rounded? Were they equally skilled at everything? Or were they absolutely exceptional at one particular thing while being mediocre or even terrible at many other things? The greatest basketball players are not also the greatest chess players. The greatest writers are not also the greatest mathematicians. The greatest entrepreneurs are not also the greatest musicians. They found their one thing and they pursued it with violent focus while ignoring everything else. This is the path you must follow, not the path of balanced mediocrity that school taught you, the path of focused excellence that life actually rewards. Find what feels easy to you and difficult to others. That is where your fortune hides. Now let me address a common objection. Many people hear this advice and immediately say that nothing feels easy to them. They claim they have no natural talents. They believe they are simply average at everything. This is almost never true. What is actually happening is that their natural talents have become so normal to them that they cannot see those talents as special anymore. When something comes easily to you, you assume it comes easily to everyone. When you solve a problem effortlessly, you assume the problem must have been simple. When you perform a task without struggle, you assume the task requires no real skill. But watch other people attempt the same thing. Watch them stumble. Watch them fail. Watch them spend hours on something you finished in minutes. That gap between your effortless execution and their desperate struggle is your natural edge making itself visible. You must learn to recognize it. You must learn to value it. You must learn to build your entire career around it. Here is a practical exercise. Think about the last 10 times someone asked for your help. What were they asking about? What problem did they assume you could solve? What skill did they believe you possessed that they lacked? Other people often see our natural edges more clearly than we see them ourselves. They notice what we do effortlessly because it contrasts so sharply with their own struggles. Pay attention to what people consistently come to you for. That pattern reveals something important about your unique abilities. Another exercise. Think about what you were doing the last time you completely lost track of time. Not watching entertainment, not scrolling social media, actually doing something productive that absorbed you so completely that hours passed like minutes. That absorption is a clue. That flow state does not happen randomly. It happens when your natural abilities meet an appropriate challenge. It happens when you are operating in your zone of genius, rather than forcing yourself through tasks that drain you. Find what feels easy to you and difficult to others. That is where your fortune hides. I need you to understand why this matters so much for your 40-year career. When you build your professional life around your natural edge, everything becomes easier. Learning becomes faster because you are expanding existing abilities rather than building from scratch. Performance becomes better because you are working with your nature rather than against it. Motivation becomes sustainable because the work itself energizes you rather than depletes you. But when you ignore your natural edge and choose a career that requires abilities you simply do not have, everything becomes a struggle. Every day feels like pushing a boulder uphill. Every task takes twice as long as it should. Every year leaves you more exhausted and less fulfilled than the year before. This is not a minor difference. This is the difference between thriving and surviving. This is the difference between becoming exceptional and remaining forgettable. This is the difference between loving your 40-year journey and resenting every single step. So stop trying to fix your weaknesses. The school system lied to you. Fixing weaknesses only makes you less bad at things you were never meant to do. It does not make you exceptional at anything. Instead, take your natural strengths and make them so powerful that your weaknesses become irrelevant. Become so valuable in your area of genius that people gladly overlook your deficiencies in other areas. Become so essential for what you do well that nobody cares about what you do poorly. This is how successful people operate. They do not waste energy becoming well-rounded. They invest everything into becoming undeniable at their one thing. And then they surround themselves with people whose natural edges cover their weak spots. You have a natural edge. I promise you that you do. Every human being is born with certain abilities that come more easily to them than to others. Your job is not to develop new abilities from nothing. Your job is to discover the abilities you already possess and amplify them until they become your greatest professional asset. Look inward. Pay attention to what comes naturally. Notice where you outperform others without trying. Track the moments when time disappears because you are so absorbed in what you are doing. The clues are everywhere. You have simply been taught to ignore them. Stop ignoring them. Start honoring them. Start building your career around them. Find what feels easy to you and difficult to others. That is where your fortune hides. Your natural edge is waiting to be discovered, and once you find it, your entire career trajectory will change forever. Chapter 4. Money is the first filter. I am about to tell you something that will sound harsh, something that might even offend you if you have been raised on motivational quotes about following your dreams and doing what you love, regardless of the consequences. But I need you to hear this. I need you to accept this, because ignoring this truth has destroyed more careers and more lives than almost any other mistake a person can make. Before passion, before purpose, before meaning, before fulfillment, before any of the beautiful ideals that self-help books love to preach about, you must ask one simple question first. Does this career pay? That is it. That is the first filter. That is the question that must come before all other questions. And if the answer is no, you need to stop and reconsider before going any further. Passion without profit is a hobby. Profit without passion is a prison. Find where they intersect. I know this sounds cold. I know this sounds materialistic. I know this contradicts the romantic notion that money does not matter, as long as you are doing what you love. But I'm not here to tell you what sounds nice. I'm here to tell you what actually works. And here is what actually works. You cannot pursue your calling while drowning in debt. You cannot focus on mastery while worrying about rent. You cannot develop your craft while taking extra shifts just to keep the lights on. You cannot become great at anything when financial anxiety consumes every waking thought. Money is not the goal of your career, but money is the foundation that makes all other goals possible. Think about this carefully. What happens to passion when you cannot pay your bills? What happens to purpose when your bank account is empty? What happens to creativity when you are one missed paycheck away from losing your apartment? I will tell you exactly what happens. They disappear. They evaporate. They get crushed under the weight of survival. Because human beings cannot operate at higher levels when their basic needs are threatened. This is not philosophy. This is psychology. This is biology. This is the hierarchy of human needs that governs every single person on this planet. When you are hungry, you do not think about self-actualization. When you are scared about money, you do not think about artistic expression. When you are desperate, you do not think about legacy or impact or meaning. You think about getting through the next week. You think about making the next payment. You think about survival. And survival mode kills careers. Survival mode kills dreams. Survival mode turns passionate people into bitter people who blame the world for their own failure to plan properly. Passion without profit is a hobby. Profit without passion is a prison. Find where they intersect. Let me give you an analogy that will make this crystal clear. Imagine you need to travel across the city. You step outside and you see a taxi waiting. You approach the driver and tell him your destination. What does the driver do next? He calculates whether the fare makes sense. He considers the distance, the time, the traffic, the fuel costs. And if the numbers work, he takes you there. If the numbers do not work, he does not move. He does not drive you across the city out of passion for driving. He does not take you to your destination because he loves the journey. He does it because the compensation matches the effort required. Your career must work the same way. You must calculate whether the fare makes sense for your capabilities. You must consider the effort required, the time invested, the skills demanded, and the compensation must match. If it does not, you are working for free. You are subsidizing someone else's profit with your own life energy. You are giving away the most valuable resource you have, which is time, in exchange for less than you deserve. This is not greed. This is respect. Respect for yourself. Respect for your abilities. Respect for the decades you will spend building your professional life. Too many people choose careers without ever asking the money question seriously. They fall in love with an industry because it sounds interesting. They pursue a field because they enjoyed it in school. They chase a path because their friends are doing it, or because a movie made it look exciting. And then reality hits. The salary is not enough. The advancement is too slow. The financial ceiling is too low. And suddenly, that passionate dream becomes a daily nightmare of stress and scarcity and resentment. I have watched this happen to countless talented people. Artists who loved creating but could not afford materials. Musicians who loved performing but could not pay for food. Writers who loved storytelling but had to abandon their craft for survival jobs. Passionate people who burned out not because they stopped loving their work, but because their work did not love them back financially. Passion without profit is a hobby. Profit without passion is a prison. Find where they intersect. Now, I need to be very clear about something. I am not telling you to chase money blindly. I am not telling you to pick the highest paying job regardless of whether you can tolerate it. That is the opposite extreme, and it is equally destructive. If you choose a career purely for money, without any genuine interest in the work, you'll become a different kind of miserable. You will become wealthy and empty. You will become successful and depressed. You will become the person who has everything except a reason to get out of bed in the morning. That is why the phrase is so important. Passion without profit is a hobby. Profit without passion is a prison. Find where they intersect. The intersection is where you want to live. The intersection is where sustainable success exists. The intersection is where you do work that genuinely interests you while also receiving compensation that respects your contribution. Finding this intersection requires honesty, brutal, uncomfortable honesty about both your passions and the market's willingness to pay for them. Start by listing everything you are genuinely interested in, everything that energizes you, everything that matches your natural edge from the previous chapter. Do not filter yet, just list. Then take that list and research the financial realities of each option. What do people actually earn in these fields? What is the starting salary? What is the ceiling? How long does it take to reach meaningful income? What percentage of people in this field achieve financial stability versus those who struggle forever? Some of your passions will survive this filter. They will turn out to be fields where good money is available for skilled practitioners. These are your candidates. These are the paths worth pursuing. Other passions will not survive. They will reveal themselves to be industries where almost nobody earns a living wage, where the competition is so intense and the opportunities so scarce that financial success is essentially a lottery ticket, where pursuing this path professionally almost guarantees a life of financial stress. Those passions should remain hobbies. You can still enjoy them. You can still practice them on weekends and evenings, but building your 40-year career around them is a mistake that will cost you dearly. This is not me crushing your dreams. This is me saving your dreams from being destroyed by reality. Because there is nothing more tragic than watching someone's passion die because they could not afford to sustain it. Passion without profit is a hobby. Profit without passion is a prison. Find where they intersect. I want you to think long-term here. A career that pays well gives you options. It gives you freedom. It gives you the ability to take risks, to invest in yourself, to weather difficult periods without panic. Money creates a buffer between you and desperation, and that buffer allows you to make better decisions about everything else in your life. But a career that pays poorly traps you. It forces you into survival mode. It makes you dependent on every single paycheck with no room for error. It eliminates your ability to take chances or pursue growth opportunities that might require short-term sacrifice. Poverty is not noble when it is chosen through poor planning. So before you commit to any career path, ask the money question first. Research actual salaries. Talk to people already in the field. Look at job postings and income statistics. Understand exactly what financial reality awaits you if you choose this path. If the money works and the interest is genuine, you have found your intersection. Pursue it with everything you have. If the money does not work, no matter how passionate you feel, step back and reconsider. Find another way to express that passion while building your professional life on more stable ground. This is not selling out. This is growing up. This is taking responsibility for your future self, who will have bills to pay and a life to fund for the next 40 years. Passion without profit is a hobby. Profit without passion is a prison. Find where they intersect. Your career must pay you appropriately for your capabilities. Never forget that. Never compromise on that. Never let anyone convince you that financial struggle is somehow romantic or meaningful. Money is the first filter. Apply it honestly. And then build your career on the paths that survive it. Chapter 5. Count the competition. There is a fundamental law of economics that governs every market on earth. It governs the price of vegetables, it governs the cost of housing, it governs the value of gold and oil and technology stocks, and it governs your salary more powerfully than any other factor you will ever encounter. That law is supply and demand. And if you ignore it when choosing your career, You will pay the price for the rest of your working life. Here is how it works in the simplest possible terms. When there are few sellers of something and many buyers, prices go up. When there are many sellers and few buyers, prices collapse. This is not theory, this is not opinion. This is the mathematical reality that controls every transaction in every economy that has ever existed. Now apply this to your career. You are a seller. You are selling your skills, your time, your labor, your expertise. Employers are buyers. They are purchasing what you offer in exchange for a salary. When many people can do what you do, employers have endless options. They can choose the cheapest seller. They can demand more work for less pay. They can replace you instantly if you complain. Your value drops because you are one of thousands competing for the same positions. But when few people can do what you do, the equation flips completely. Employers compete for you. They offer higher salaries to attract you. They provide better conditions to keep you. Your value rises because you are rare. This is why you must count the competition before choosing any career path. This is why you must research how many people are flooding into your field versus how many opportunities actually exist. This is why popular career choices are often the worst career choices. Where everyone rushes in, value rushes out. I need you to burn this phrase into your memory. Where everyone rushes in, value rushes out. It will save you from following the crowd into financial disappointment. Think about what happens when a career becomes trendy. When a field gets featured in movies and television shows. When social media influencers start glamorizing a particular profession. When parents begin pushing their children towards certain industries because they heard those industries are hot. Everyone notices. Everyone rushes in. Thousands of people who had no previous interest in that field suddenly decide it is their destiny. Universities create new programs to capture tuition money. Boot camps and online courses multiply overnight. The market floods with eager newcomers all competing for the same limited positions. And what happens next is entirely predictable. Salaries drop. Opportunities shrink. Entry-level positions demand years of experience because employers can afford to be picky. Talented people struggle to find any work at all because they are competing against armies of equally qualified candidates. The people who arrived early, before the trend, often do well. They established themselves when competition was low. But the people who followed the crowd, who jumped on the bandwagon after everyone else, find themselves trapped in an oversaturated market, wondering why their career is not working out. Where everyone rushes in, value rushes out. Let me give you a concrete example. In the past decade, countless people were told that technology was the future. Learn to code, they said. Get a job at a tech company, they said. The salaries are enormous and the demand is infinite, they said. And so millions of people enrolled in coding boot camps. Universities expanded their computer science programs. Online platforms offered countless courses promising six-figure salaries after just 12 weeks of training. Everyone rushed in because everyone believed the hype. What happened? The market became flooded. Entry-level programming jobs became almost impossible to land without extensive portfolios and connections. Companies that once hired eagerly suddenly had thousands of applicants for every position. Salaries for junior developers stagnated or even declined in many areas because employers had endless options. The people who told you to learn to code were not lying exactly. Technology is indeed important. Programming is indeed a valuable skill. But they failed to mention that when millions of people follow the same advice simultaneously, the advantage disappears entirely. Where everyone rushes in, value rushes out. Now consider the opposite scenario. Think about the careers that nobody wants to discuss. The fields that are not glamorous or trendy. The jobs that do not get featured in inspirational social media posts. the industries that your classmates would never consider because they seem boring or old-fashioned. These overlooked fields often have something precious that popular careers lack: scarcity of workers. Think about skilled trades: electricians, plumbers, welders, HVAC technicians. For decades, young people were told that these careers were beneath them. Go to university, they were told. Get a white-collar job, work in an office with air conditioning and a computer. And so everyone listened. Everyone pursued degrees. Everyone avoided the trades. The supply of skilled tradespeople dropped year after year as older workers retired and young people refused to replace them. What happened next? Wages for skilled trades started climbing dramatically. Electricians and plumbers began earning more than many college graduates. Experienced tradespeople found themselves in such demand that they could name their price and customers would happily pay it. The people who ignored the crowd and pursued trades anyway discovered a profound truth: value flows towards scarcity. When everyone goes left, going right becomes profitable. Where everyone rushes in, value rushes out. And where everyone rushes out, value floods in. This principle applies far beyond trades versus technology. It applies to every career decision you will ever make. Before committing to any path, you must research how many people are already walking it and how many more are about to join. Look at university enrollment statistics for your intended field. Are applications increasing dramatically year after year? That is a warning sign. It means a wave of competition is building that will hit the job market in 3 to 4 years. Look at the popularity of related training programs. Are boot camps and online courses multiplying rapidly? That is another warning sign. It means barriers to entry are falling and more people are gaining the credentials needed to compete with you. Look at social media and career advice content. Is everyone suddenly talking about your intended field as the path to success? That is perhaps the biggest warning sign of all. It means the crowd has noticed, and where the crowd goes, value eventually disappears. Where everyone rushes in, value rushes out. Now I need to address a subtle point that many people miss. Counting the competition is not just about avoiding popular fields entirely. It is about finding the underserved niches within any field and positioning yourself where demand exceeds supply. Even in crowded industries, there are specialized corners where competition is low and compensation is high. These are the areas that require additional skills most people do not have. These are the roles that demand violations of abilities that are rare in the market. These are the positions that few people want because they involve difficulty or discomfort or obscurity. Finding these niches requires research. It requires talking to people already working in your target industry. It requires asking where the shortages are, where companies struggle to find talent, where skills are desperately needed but rarely available. This is how smart career builders operate. They do not simply pick an industry and jump in with everyone else. They analyze the landscape carefully. They identify the gaps. They position themselves in the spaces where their presence will be valued rather than commoditized. Where everyone rushes in, value rushes out. But where gaps exist, value concentrates. I also want you to think about timing. The popularity of careers rises and falls in cycles. Fields that are overcrowded today may be underserved in 10 years as workers burn out and move on. Fields that are underserved today may be overcrowded in 10 years as people notice the opportunity and rush in. Your job is to stay aware of these cycles throughout your career, not just when you first start, but continuously. Always watch where the crowds are moving. Always notice when your field starts attracting too many new entrants. Always be ready to pivot towards scarcity when your current position becomes commoditized. This is what separates people who thrive for 40 years from people who struggle. The thrivers never stop counting the competition. They never assume their current advantage will last forever. They remain vigilant and adaptive, always moving toward value and away from saturation. Where everyone rushes in, value rushes out. So before you finalize your career decision, do the research. Count how many people are already in your target field. Count how many are training to enter it. Calculate the ratio between available positions and available candidates. Understand exactly how much competition you will face. If the numbers are overwhelming, reconsider your direction. Find a different path, or find a specialized niche within your chosen field where competition is lower. Do not follow the crowd blindly simply because the crowd seems confident. The crowd is almost always wrong about career choices. The crowd follows trends. The crowd chases what sounds exciting. The crowd rushes toward whatever everyone else is rushing toward without ever stopping to do the math. You must be smarter than the crowd. You must count what they refuse to count. You must see what they refuse to see. You must make decisions based on supply and demand rather than hope and hype. Where everyone rushes in, value rushes out. Remember this principle, apply it ruthlessly, and build your career in the spaces where your presence will be valued, precisely because so few others had the wisdom to go there. The crowd is not your friend. The crowd is your competition. Count them carefully, and then go where they are not. Chapter 6. Choose the harder path. Everything inside you wants to take the easy road. Every instinct you have is screaming at you to find the shortcut, to avoid the struggle, to pick the path that requires the least effort and the least pain and the least time. This is natural. This is human. This is how your brain is wired after millions of years of evolution, trying to conserve energy and avoid unnecessary risk. But this instinct will destroy your career if you let it. Because here is the truth that nobody wants to accept. The easier a career is to enter, the less it will pay. The simpler a skill is to learn, the less valuable it becomes. The more comfortable a path feels, the more crowded it will be with competitors who are also looking for comfort. Easy to enter means easy to replace. I need you to understand this principle at the deepest level. Your salary is not determined by how hard you work. It is not determined by how many hours you spend at your desk. It is not determined by how much you care or how dedicated you are or how much you believe you deserve. Your salary is determined by one thing and one thing only: how difficult it is to replace you. If anyone can do your job after a 2-week training course, you are replaceable, and replaceable people do not get paid. They get discarded. They get treated as interchangeable parts in a machine. They get minimum wage or close to it because employers know that 100 other people are waiting in line to take that same position. But if your job requires years of specialized training, rare expertise, and hard-won experience that most people cannot or will not acquire, suddenly the equation changes completely. Employers cannot replace you easily. They cannot find dozens of alternatives waiting to step in. They must pay premium prices to attract and retain someone with your capabilities. This is not cruelty. This is not exploitation. This is market reality. And the sooner you accept it, the better your career decisions will become. Easy to enter means easy to replace. Think about the careers that pay extremely well: surgeons, specialized lawyers, expert engineers, elite financial professionals. What do all of these paths have in common? They are brutally difficult to enter. They require years of education that most people cannot afford or cannot complete. They demand levels of sustained effort that most people are not willing to give. They filter out the weak and the uncommitted through examinations, certifications, and grueling training periods that only the most determined survive. And that difficulty is precisely why they pay so well. The barrier to entry protects those who cross it. The struggle to get in becomes the wall that keeps competitors out. The pain of qualification becomes the source of lifelong financial security. Now think about the careers that pay poorly: fast food workers, basic retail employees, entry-level positions that require no special training or credentials. What do these paths have in common? They are easy to enter. Anyone can walk in off the street and be productive within days or weeks. No years of preparation required. No specialized knowledge demanded. No barriers standing between an employer and an endless supply of available workers. And that ease of entry is precisely why they pay so little. When anyone can do the job becomes worthless. When the supply of workers is unlimited, the price of labor crashes to the floor. Easy to enter means easy to replace. I am not telling you this to insult anyone who works these jobs. Many people have no choice but to take whatever work is available. Many people are trapped by circumstances beyond their control. I have nothing but respect for anyone who shows up and works hard, regardless of their position. But you are listening to this audiobook because you want to choose wisely. You want to build a career that rewards you appropriately for 40 years. And that means you must consciously choose difficulty over ease whenever you have the option. The harder path protects you. The complicated route secures you. The challenging career creates a moat around your income that competitors cannot easily cross. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine two people starting their careers at the same time. One chooses to become a general office administrator. The other chooses to become a specialized data security expert. The administrator's path is relatively easy. A few months of training, maybe a certification or two, and they are employable. They start earning money quickly. They avoid years of struggle and study. The security expert's path is much harder. Years of technical education, multiple difficult certifications, constant study to keep up with evolving threats, hundreds of hours of practice and real-world experience before anyone will trust them with serious responsibilities. Now fast forward 10 years. Where is each person? Chapter 7. One skill, total dominance. I want you to look at the most successful people in any field, the billionaires, the legends, the icons whose names will be remembered for generations. Study them carefully, analyze their paths, examine how they built their empires and their legacies, and you will notice something that contradicts almost everything you have been taught. They are not well-rounded. They are not balanced. They are not moderately good at many different things. They are absolutely exceptional at one specific thing. One skill, one domain, one area of focus that they pursued with such intensity and such dedication that they became undeniable. They did not spread themselves thin trying to master everything. They went narrow. They went deep. They picked one direction and they refused to look anywhere else until they dominated completely. Do not be well-rounded. Be weaponized. This is the principle that separates the successful from the average, the memorable from the forgotten, the wealthy from the struggling, and yet almost everyone ignores it because society has programmed them to believe the opposite. From childhood you were told to be balanced, get good grades in every subject, develop multiple skills, do not put all your eggs in one basket, be a well-rounded person who can function in any situation. This advice sounds reasonable, it sounds safe, it sounds like wisdom passed down from caring adults who wanted to protect you from failure, but it is a recipe for mediocrity. It is a formula for becoming average at everything and exceptional at nothing. It is the path to a career where you are always competing against specialists who destroy you in their domain while you offer nothing that makes you irreplaceable. The market does not pay premium prices for well-rounded people. The market pays premium prices for specialists who are the absolute best at one valuable thing. Companies do not hire generalists for their most important positions. They hire experts whose mastery is so deep that no one else can match their contribution. Do not be well-rounded. Be weaponized. Think about this in practical terms. Imagine you need brain surgery. You have two doctors to choose from. The first doctor is well-rounded. She knows a little about cardiology, a little about orthopedics, a little about neurology, a little about everything. She is balanced and versatile. The second doctor has spent her entire career focused exclusively on brain surgery. She has performed thousands of procedures. She has published research. She has trained other surgeons. She knows more about brains than almost anyone alive. Which doctor do you choose? The answer is obvious. You choose the specialist. You choose the person who went deep instead of wide. You choose the expert over the generalist without a second thought. Now apply this logic to your own career. When employers are looking for someone to fill their most important roles, They are not looking for well-rounded candidates. They are looking for specialists who can solve specific problems better than anyone else. They are looking for weapons, not Swiss Army knives. Do not be well-rounded, be weaponized. I need you to understand the mathematics of skill development. Every hour you have is a finite resource. You only get so many hours in a day, so many days in a year, so many years in a career. How you allocate those hours determines everything about your professional success. When you spread your hours across many different skills, you make slow progress in all of them. You become moderately competent in several areas, but masterful in none. You climb multiple ladders simultaneously, but never reach the top of any of them. But when you concentrate all your hours into one skill, something powerful happens. Your progress accelerates exponentially. You break through plateaus that stop the generalists. You develop expertise that takes decades for others to match. You become so good that people cannot ignore you. Every hour you spend improving a weakness is an hour stolen from your greatest strength. That is not growth. That is sabotage. That is you actively undermining your own potential because someone told you that balance matters more than dominance. The grades did not become great by eliminating flaws. They became great by amplifying what already worked until no one could compete. Think about the greatest athletes in history. Were they well-rounded humans with balanced skill sets across all areas of life? Absolutely not. They were obsessives who sacrificed almost everything to dominate their sport. They ignored their weaknesses. They ignored other areas of life. They poured every ounce of energy into the one thing that mattered to their success. Think about the greatest entrepreneurs. Did they build their empires by being good at everything? No. They found one thing they understood better than anyone else, and they built entire companies around that singular insight. They surrounded themselves with people who covered their weaknesses while they doubled down on their strengths. Think about the greatest artists and creators. Did they master every medium and every style? No. They developed distinctive voices and approaches that became instantly recognizable. They went deep into their particular form of expression until their work became unmistakable. Do not be well-rounded. Be weaponized. Now let me address the fear that I know is rising in your mind. You are thinking that this approach is risky. What if you pick the wrong skill? What if that skill becomes obsolete? What if you need those other abilities you ignored? These fears are natural, but mostly unfounded. Here is why. First, if you have followed the previous chapters of this audiobook, you are not picking randomly. You are picking based on your natural edge, the money filter, the competition count, and the difficulty premium. A skill chosen through this framework is unlikely to be the wrong choice. Second, deep expertise in one area teaches you how to develop deep expertise in general. The discipline, the focus, the learning strategies you develop while mastering one skill transfer to any other skill you might need later. The specialist who needs to pivot has a massive advantage over the generalist because they know what true mastery feels like and how to achieve it. Third, specialists can always hire generalists, but generalists cannot hire specialists. When you become exceptional at one thing, you gain the resources and reputation to surround yourself with people who handle everything else. Your weakness becomes irrelevant because you have the leverage to build a team. Do not be well-rounded. Be weaponized. Let me be extremely specific about what this means for your career decisions. You need to pick one skill, not 3, not 5, 1. The single ability that will become your professional identity. The expertise that people will associate with your name. The mastery that will make you irreplaceable in your field. This does not mean you will never learn anything else. Of course, you will develop supporting skills along the way. But those supporting skills exist only to amplify your primary weapon. They are accessories, not foundations. They serve your main expertise rather than competing with it. Everything else that does not serve your primary skill should be minimized or delegated or ignored entirely. Every request to become more well-rounded should be questioned. Every pressure to diversify your abilities should be resisted unless it directly enhances your core expertise. This requires courage. It requires saying no to opportunities that would spread you thin. It requires disappointing people who want you to be something other than what you are building. It requires trusting that depth beats width in the career marketplace. Do not be well-rounded. Be weaponized. I want you to imagine your career 40 years from now. You can be the person who is moderately good at 15 different things, competing against specialists in each area and losing every time. Or you can be the person who is the undisputed master of one thing, sought after and valued precisely because no one else can match your expertise. The choice is obvious when you see it clearly, but society will try to blur your vision. Society will keep telling you to balance, to diversify, to spread yourself evenly across multiple domains. Ignore that voice. It is the voice of mediocrity disguised as wisdom. Pick one skill. Commit completely. Develop that skill with violent focus until you become so good that the world cannot ignore you. Let your weaknesses remain weak. Let your gaps remain unfilled. Bet everything on your singular strength. The specialists inherit the earth. The generalists fight over scraps. Do not be well-rounded. Be weaponized. Choose your weapon today and start sharpening it tomorrow.
Chapter 8.
The decision that decides everything. You have traveled a long way to reach this moment. 7 chapters of truth. 7 chapters of principles that most people will never hear and even fewer will ever apply. 7 chapters that have given you everything you need to choose a career you will never regret. But none of it matters yet. Not a single word you have heard makes any difference to your life until you do something about it. Knowledge without action is entertainment. Information without execution is just noise. Wisdom without decision is worthless. You can listen to 1,000 audiobooks. You can read 1,000,000 articles. You can consume endless content about career strategy and professional development and finding your path. And at the end of all that consumption, you can remain exactly where you started, confused, paralyzed, drifting through life without direction. Because learning is not doing. Thinking is not deciding. Understanding is not acting. Decide now, or life will decide for you, and life does not negotiate. This is the chapter where everything becomes real. This is the moment where you either transform your future or you waste the last hour of your life listening to ideas you will never implement. This is the fork in the road that separates the people who build extraordinary careers from the people who wonder why their lives never changed. Let me tell you what happens to most people who finish audiobooks like this one. They feel inspired for about 20 minutes. Their minds buzz with possibility. They tell themselves that tomorrow they will start making changes. They promise themselves that soon they will apply what they learned. And then nothing happens. The inspiration fades. The urgency disappears. The comfortable routines of daily life swallow their intentions whole. Within a week, they have forgotten most of what they heard. Within a month, it is as if they never listened at all. They return to the same confusion, the same career drift, the same vague dissatisfaction with their professional lives. They continue working jobs they hate because they never made the decision to pursue something better. They keep wondering what they should do with their lives because they never committed to an answer. I refuse to let that happen to you. I refuse to let this audiobook become background noise that briefly entertained you before vanishing into irrelevance. I refuse to let you become another person who knew what to do but never did it. Decide now, or life will decide for you, and life does not negotiate. Let me remind you of everything you now know. You understand the 40-year trap. You understand that whatever career you choose will likely contain you for decades, and that switching directions becomes exponentially harder with every passing year. You understand the gravity of this decision. You understand that success demands alignment. You understand that no one reaches the top of any field while hating their work. You understand that passion is not optional, but essential for sustained excellence over a lifetime. You understand how to find your natural edge. You understand that the answer is already inside you, hiding in the activities that feel effortless to you, but difficult to others. You understand that school tried to make you well-rounded, but life rewards the specialized. You understand that money is the first filter. You understand that passion without profit is a hobby, and profit without passion is a prison. You understand that you must find the intersection where genuine interest meets genuine compensation. You understand the importance of counting the competition. You understand that where everyone rushes in, value rushes out. You understand that popular career choices often become the worst career choices precisely because everyone is making them. You understand why you must choose the harder path. You understand that easy to enter means easy to replace. You understand that difficulty is your friend because it creates barriers that protect your income from endless competition. You understand the power of one skill pursued with total dominance. You understand that you should not be well-rounded, but weaponized. You understand that specialists inherit the earth, while generalists fight over scraps. You have the complete framework. You have every principle you need. You have more clarity about career decisions than most people will ever possess in their entire lives. Now, what are you going to do about it? Decide now, or life will decide for you, and life does not negotiate. I need you to take action before this audiobook ends. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Now, because if you wait for the perfect moment, you will wait forever. There is no perfect moment. There is only now. Here is what I want you to do. Before you sleep tonight, sit down with a piece of paper or an empty document on your computer. Write down the 3 career paths that match the framework you have learned. These must be paths that align with your natural edge. Things that feel effortless to you, but difficult to others. These must be paths that pass the money filter. Fields where real income is available for skilled practitioners. These must be paths with manageable competition, areas where the crowd has not already flooded in and destroyed the value. These must be paths with high difficulty, domains where barriers to entry protect those who cross them. 3 paths, not 10, not 20, 3. If you cannot narrow it down to 3, you have not thought hard enough. Go back through the chapters. Apply the filters more ruthlessly. Eliminate options that do not meet all the criteria. Once you have your 3 candidates, research each one deeply over the next week. Talk to people working in those fields. Read about typical career trajectories. Understand what daily life actually looks like. Discover the hidden realities that job descriptions never mention. Then pick one. Not 3. 1. The single path that feels most aligned with everything you have learned about yourself and the market. The career that checks every box in the framework. The direction you are willing to commit to fully. And then pursue it with everything you have. No backup plans. No half measures. No keeping one foot in your old life while tentatively testing the new one. Full commitment. Complete dedication. Absolute focus. Decide now, or life will decide for you, and life does not negotiate. I know this feels scary. I know you want more certainty before committing. I know you wish someone could guarantee that your choice will work out perfectly, but that guarantee does not exist. It has never existed for anyone in the history of human careers. Every successful person you admire made decisions without knowing for certain that those decisions would pay off. They committed before they had proof. They moved before they felt ready. They decided before life decided for them. That is what you must do now. Not because you are certain, but because certainty never comes, and waiting destroys more careers than wrong choices ever could. A wrong decision can be corrected. Paralysis cannot. A mistaken path can be adjusted. Drifting cannot. Action creates feedback. Inaction creates nothing. The question is simple. Will you choose your work, or will you let circumstances choose it for you? Will you take control of your 40-year future, or will you surrender that control to chance and drift and default? Decide now, or life will decide for you, and life does not negotiate. Your future self is watching this moment. 40 years from now, you will look back and remember the day you heard these words. You will remember whether you took action, or whether you let the inspiration fade into nothing. Make your future self proud. Make the decision today, and never look back. Here is the truth you cannot escape. You will work for the next 40 to 50 years, regardless of what you choose. That time will pass whether you spend it building something meaningful or grinding through something meaningless. The clock does not care about your decisions. The calendar does not wait for your readiness. The years will accumulate behind you, with or without your permission. The only variable you control is how you feel when you arrive at the end. You now know the rules. You now understand the game. You now possess principles that most people never learn and even fewer ever apply. Find your natural edge. Locate the abilities that come easily to you but challenge everyone else. Stop fighting against your nature and start building upon it. The clues have been there your entire life. Pay attention to them. Honor them. Build your career around them. Filter for money first. Do not let romantic notions about passion blind you to financial reality. Passion without profit is a hobby that will eventually break your heart. Profit without passion is a prison that will eventually break your spirit. Find where they intersect and plant yourself there. Count the competition. Watch where the crowds are moving and go the opposite direction. Where everyone rushes in, value rushes out. Where everyone rushes out, value floods in. Be smarter than the crowd. See what they refuse to see. Make decisions based on supply and demand rather than hope and hype. Choose difficulty. Run toward the hard paths while everyone else runs toward the easy ones. Easy to enter means easy to replace. Your salary is determined by how difficult it is to find someone else who can do what you do. Make yourself irreplaceable by mastering what others refuse to attempt. Master one skill with total dominance. Do not be well-rounded. Be weaponized. Pick your one thing and pursue it with violent focus until no one can deny your expertise. Let your weaknesses remain weak. Bet everything on your singular strength. The specialists inherit the earth. And above all, choose work that aligns with who you actually are. Because you cannot fake passion for 4 decades. You cannot pretend enthusiasm for 50 years. Misalignment is a slow poison that will destroy everything you build if you ignore it long enough. This is not motivation. This is mathematics. Every successful person you admire understood these principles, consciously or instinctively. They were not lucky. They were strategic. They chose correctly. They refused to drift. They made decisions early and committed completely. And that is exactly what you must do now. Do not close this audiobook and return to confusion. Do not let another year pass in career paralysis. Do not become another person who knew what to do but never did it. Sit down tonight. Write down the 3 paths that match your natural abilities, pay appropriately, have low competition, and demand high difficulty. Research them seriously over the next week. Then pick one, just one, and pursue it until you become undeniable. Stop waiting for certainty that will never arrive. Stop preparing endlessly for action you never take. Stop learning without doing, thinking without deciding, understanding without committing. The framework is complete. The principles are clear. The path forward is illuminated. The only remaining variable is you. Will you become the person who builds an extraordinary career over the next 40 years? Or will you become the person who looks back with regret at all the knowledge that was never applied? The question is simple. Will you choose your work, or will you let circumstances choose it for you? Decide now. Your 40-year future is listening. The clock is already ticking. Every day you delay is a day lost forever. You have everything you need. The principles are inside you now. The framework is part of you now. There is nothing left to learn before acting. Go build the career you will never regret. Go become the person you were meant to become. Go prove that you heard these words and actually did something about them. Your future is waiting. Do not keep it waiting any longer. Go.